to this week's episode of Next Level Play Therapy, where we talk about all things play therapy. And this week, we're going to talk about a topic that comes up all the time. I get asked this question all the time. So, whether you're new to play therapy or you're a seasoned play therapist, we have all wondered this question. And I'll be honest, sometimes I still wonder this question that we're going to talk about today, which is, how do you know if your clients are just playing or if it's actually therapeutic? Underneath that question is usually a couple of things. One is, especially for new play therapists, one is they're paying money. Parents are paying me money for this. So I want to make sure that I am justifying why they need to bring their child. So they're investing time and money. And so as a play therapist, I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing and not wasting time or just playing when parents are paying money to bring their child. And I want to justify to parents and prove to parents that this is real, that play therapy is valid. I want to justify to other professionals that are also working with this client that it's a real thing, that play therapy is a valid treatment modality. Those are the key things that really underlie this question. The other way of thinking about this question of, is my client just playing or are they doing actual therapy in the play therapy session, is understanding a couple of things. One is understanding that the very nature of play therapy itself, the very nature of your playroom and your training, and I would include therapeutic presence in the playroom, sets play therapy apart from just playing, like just playing with their friends or just playing in daycare or just playing with their parents or just playing with whoever by themselves. The very nature of the structure of play therapy sets your playroom and their experience with you apart from all of those things. So from its core foundation, play therapy is essentially a different experience. And we are, as play therapists, one of the things that sets play therapy apart from other expressive arts modalities is the therapeutic powers of play. We help children access the therapeutic powers of play through the use of a therapeutic model, so a play therapy model, within the context of a safe and secure therapeutic relationship. And so that framework in and of itself sets play therapy apart. So foundationally, play therapy is different. And so when you're not sure what's going on with your clients in play therapy, rest in that. So what I want to do today is, I got a whole list and I have my notes. Those of you on video, you'll see me pointing up into the beyond. I have all of my notes of what I want to cover. So I'm going to reference those, but there are quite a few things that I want to get through in a short period of time to kind of give you some things to think about when you are wondering, is this just playing or is my client actually doing therapeutic work? And that is the topic that we are going to discuss today. Before we do that, I would love to know who's here. So if you are watching the live stream, or even if you are watching the live stream replay, I live stream every week. Today I'm doing a different day. Today is the live stream is happening on Tuesday. I normally do them on Wednesday, but I am traveling tomorrow to New Mexico. Very excited about that. I am traveling to do a 2-day training for a child advocacy program for some and the community therapists for who are working to address trauma with children and adolescents. So I'm super excited about that. Um, oh, shout out to all of the Affirming Hearts people and all of the all of the people in the Hobbs, New Mexico area. I'm super excited about seeing you guys tomorrow. And so I'm doing the live stream a different day. For those of you listening on the podcast, it did not affect you one little iota. This episode still drops. Podcast episodes drop every Thursday. All righty. So if you're watching though, or watching the replay, feel free to post your name. I would love to see who's here. Post your name in the comments, what population you work with, what play therapy modality that you use. And for those of you who are listening on the podcast, feel free to pop over to my Instagram channel where I am also going live, which is Renewing Hearts Training. And feel free to message me, post a comment in the comments, and let's get started for today. Oh, one more thing. If you find this information helpful, please feel free to share it across your social media platforms. Share it with your colleagues who you think might benefit from it. And if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to hit that subscribe button and to hit the notification bell so that you'll know when I go live, but you'll also know when there's a new episode. So those of you who are watching the live, just so you know, once the live stream finishes, it automatically populates into a recording. So you can always access them. All righty. So today's topic is how to tell if your clients are just playing in play therapy. So like I said, if you're in the play therapy space, if you are a play therapist, the likelihood you have ever sat with your clients and had this experience that I'm about to share is, I would go so much as to say 100%. Like, we all wonder this. We all have to sort through this and figure it out. How many times have you sat in your play therapy session next to a client and your client is drawing flowers, and sunshine, and maybe some puffy clouds and some grass, and they've done this session after session after session, and they've been quietly drawing, or maybe just chatting away about this and that while they're drawing. And how many of you have had that happen? And in your mind, by the third or maybe fourth session, you're wondering, are they just playing? Is this actually working? Am I helping this client? Like, is play therapy working? So raise your virtual hand, right? Raise your virtual hand if you have ever had that happen. And you are not alone, my friend, because we have all had that experience. And this is a question that comes up all the time in Play Therapy Academy. So Play Therapy Academy is my online I call it my VIP play therapy program for those child and adolescent therapists who really want to double down and fine tune and hone their skills to learn play therapy and become a play therapist. And I'm super excited to announce, and I'll talk more about this at the end. I'm super excited to announce that my new online play therapy membership, Play Therapy Elevation Circle, is getting ready to launch. So what I tried to do is take all of the things that make Play Therapy Academy amazing, the core parts of it, and make it more accessible, because Play Therapy Academy is small, it's very structured, and it has to be for the RPT credentialing process. But there are a lot of people that aren't interested in maybe pursuing Play Therapy Academy at this time, or pursuing their registered play therapy credential, or maybe you already have it, and still would like a place of like-minded play therapists to do exactly what we're going to talk about doing today. And that is, how do you figure out if it's just playing? How do you know what's going on in the session? So today I'm going to go through some things for you to think about, but the reality is, the most effective way for you to answer the question of whether or not they're just playing, or what, if anything, is therapeutic, or what is therapeutic, or what exactly is going on, the best way to do that is to be in a community of like-minded play therapists who actually get it, to kind of help look at what's going on with your specific client. But today I'm going to run through some things to think about to help you answer that question. And then if you're interested, definitely want to stay tuned to the end. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get into Play Therapy Elevation Circle, what is it, and all of that. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we want to do is really think about the difference between activity and process. So this is really, activity is more like, what is it that they're doing? What is it that they're engaged in during the session? So are they making food in the kitchen and they're serving you? Or maybe they're doing restaurant play where they're cooking the food, or they've directed you to cook the food and it has to be served. And then there's a cash register, and there's going to be somebody collecting money and paying for this. Or maybe they're doing art and they're drawing flowers and sunshine and grass and puffy clouds and birds, several sessions in a row. So that's the activity. It's what it is that they're doing. Process is what's going on underneath the activity. So what's that internal emotional or psychological work that they're doing? What's at the root of the play is really what we're looking at. And one of the things that you want to keep in mind is children can access the therapeutic powers of play in the healing. One of the therapeutic powers of play is positive emotion. How do you build relationship with children? How do you build safety for children? It's different than how you do that with adults. With children, it requires you to play with them. They need to feel safe and experience positive emotion in order to feel safe. So just by the very nature of engaging fully in that play process within your playroom, again, remember, fundamentally, the structure of play therapy is fundamentally different than the playground or playing with friends. There's a fundamental difference, which is not to say that those other things are not healthy and therapeutic. But the question is, how do I know if they're just playing and it's not really beneficial or therapeutic for me to tell parents to bring their child every week and pay this money to me to see their child for 45 to 60 minutes, that to justify. The children need to engage in their social engagement circuits in order to feel safe. To do that, they have to experience positive emotion. So, just by the very nature of playing in the play therapy space, they're engaging therapeutically through the process of experiencing positive emotion within the context of a safe therapeutic relationship. And so, just like in traditional talk therapy, there are times with your maybe your adult clients or maybe even some of your older adolescents, there may be times when you are talking and maybe you're just talking about superficial things. Maybe you're checking in about their life. Maybe you're checking in about, some mutual interests that you have. What's the purpose of that? There is a therapeutic purpose. The therapeutic purpose is establishing safety and rapport. So if you think about it that way, playing and accessing the therapeutic powers of play, of positive emotion, is going to establish that safety within the relationship, and also understanding how this relationship is going to work, which is another therapeutic power of play, is relationship building. I mean, you watch kids do that on the playground all the time. They, especially the younger they are, they don't need to do a whole history of, this is my mom, this is my dad, I live at this place, my favorite color is this. They just get in and play. And through their playing, they figure out how this relationship with this person works. And so, just by the very nature of being in that therapeutic relationship, they're going to be engaging in activity. And at the very least, the process underneath that activity is feeling safe, understanding how this relationship works. That's the foundational critical area for any therapy, talk therapy and play therapy, any other expressive arts therapy. Those things have to be established. And also, sometimes there are ebbs and flow in the therapy process. Sometimes, just like in traditional talk therapy, sometimes you might have had a couple of really heavy duty conversations, and maybe the next session or two, they're a little more superficial, just because it's the turtle and the hare fable, right? The who's going to win the race, not the fastest, but the one who can persevere through all the stages of change, stay in the change process until they're able to complete the process. And it's not going to be linear. Sometimes it's, goes around in circles or back and forth for a little while. The key is getting through all of the stages of play therapy and being able to feel safe through that process and hanging in there. So some of the things that, like, if you're thinking about, like, what are some signs it might be an activity or just an activity? And I even hesitate to say just an activity, because still we're looking deeper and we're looking at a variety of things. A lot of times in Play Therapy Academy, or even now, because I started the beta version of Elevation Circle, which is going to relaunch in August. Elevation Circle is one of the things that we talk about, is like, what is it going on in the session? And maybe your fear is they're not doing anything. And then we get in there and we start looking at all these different things. And And we realize, oh, there's actually a whole lot going on. That happens so many times. So I hesitate to say just an activity, but there are times what you're looking for is where are they in the change process? What stage of play therapy are they in? And what is underlying this activity? So here's the thing to think about when you're thinking, is it just an activity? You are learning to listen deeply to what is going on and what is being spoken in the playroom through play, right? We always say play is the language of children. So, as a play therapist, you're learning to listen deeply. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is you're looking at, is the child emotionally flat or are they dysregulated? What is their behavior? What are their words communicating to you about what their play is communicating? You're also looking at, you're not just taking one session, you're looking at the whole process. You're looking at beginning, middle, and end, from session to session to session to session. And you're looking at what even the subtle changes. Is there any variation in their play? Is it the same flower over and over and over? Are they using the same colors over and over? Is it the same story? I once had a client who used the sand tray process, but kept the sand tray closed. And there were certain miniatures that he used every single session for months. It was the same storyline. But here's the thing, there were subtle differences in the sessions, like maybe 2 or 3 sessions, it would be the same storyline, the same characters. And then the next one, he would like introduce something slightly different. When I thought about this play and what was going on in this child's life, what I realized was this child's very foundation at home, because of divorce and separation and high parent conflict, like lots of custody conflict, courts were involved. This child's very foundation didn't feel solid. It felt, if you've ever, you build your house upon the rock, or you build your house upon the sand, the sifting sand by the ocean, right? What's going to be more solid? Well, typically the house on the stone. There's no solid foundation for this child to develop a sense of safety and security. And in the session, he was able to use that to try and work through what was going on. But every session for months was the same play. But when I got in there and really looked at what was going on in the child's life and in the play and the subtle shifts throughout that process, you could see there was actual therapeutic process going on underneath. And so sometimes what you'll find also is there might be like a pause in the process, and it might be just that they need to take like an emotional breather or a break, so to speak, from the heavy work of what's going on in that play process, in the same way that an adult would need to do that. The other thing you want to think about is like, when is it process? So this is the looking deeper, right? We're looking at what's going on. And what you're doing is you're noticing subtle shifts over time, noticing any forward progression or backwards regression, right? I know those were, I use doubling my words. So what you're looking for, are you noticing metaphors that are emerging in the play? The flower is dying, right? So you're noticing now the bright, shiny, new, sparkly flower. Now there's some subtle changes to the way it's being represented. And is there any like emotional energy going on or subtle shifts in vulnerability creeping into the story or what you're seeing? So, one of the things Daniel Siegel talks a lot about in interpersonal neurobiology is really that whole idea of within and between. Within me, so we're tapping into our resonance circuits to get a sense of what is going on within the client and between us. That's going to give you information as you learn how to read the cues of each child in the playroom. There's also, so you're looking how things change subtly. So maybe you see the sunshine, now there's some storm clouds. So you're looking at growth and then maybe some destruction, right? I had a client for months, similar thing. Again, another high conflict family divorce situation. Months he would build, again, outside of the sand tray, right? That's kind of interesting too. So all over my playroom would build these scenes, and there would be these elaborate scenes. He'd set them all up, and then one by one knock them all down. That happened for months. Are they inviting you in? Maybe before they just played by themselves and kind of kept you at a distance, but maybe at some point they're inviting you in, right? Or maybe they're wanting to know what you think of what they drew in their picture, right? So you're noticing what has changed. You're noticing the shifts over time. And how do you tell the difference in the moment? So, um, here's where you're really tuning in to what's happening within and between you and your client. You're tapping into your resonance circuits to read what's going on. You're looking at the tone, you're looking at the energy, you're looking at language that's being used. You're identifying what the themes are in the play therapy process, and you're tapping into your resonance circuits, which you could also call your gut, tapping into your gut, right? And you're looking at shifts over time. Also, you're keeping in mind that the very nature of being in the playroom with you is an indication that this is a different space. There's a way in which you use your play therapy model. That's the theoretical model to help your clients access the therapeutic powers of play within the context of a safe and secure relationship. Your play therapy model is going to have stages. It's going to indicate, what do you do in that stage of play therapy? What does your client do in that stage of play therapy? What are the tasks to be accomplished in that play therapy process? Because one of the underlying questions that I forgot to mention earlier, the other question is, are they just playing and does this even matter? Another way of really asking that or thinking about that is, how do I know when my client's ready to end play therapy? And in order to figure that out, you have to figure out what's going on in the sessions, where they are in the change process. That's where your play therapy model comes into play. And so using that play therapy model, by its very nature, your playroom creates a different experience. That therapeutic process creates a corrective healing experience that is different than from other places in their life. The questions that you want to ask yourself is, what is this doing for the child? What is the emotional undertone going on with my client with this play? And are they kind of stagnant? Maybe they stalled out. Are they shifting a little bit? Maybe they regressed. Regression is usually an indication of something going on in their life, or maybe they're going a little bit deeper. So, or is it symbolically? Are they using what's the theme going on in the play therapy process? And again, this is where your play therapy model matters because it's going to help you decode what is going on in the play therapy process. I like using a neuroscience and attachment lens as kind of my foundation because I feel like across any, I would say all the play therapy models, I usually try to stay away from all and none. That being said, I feel like neuroscience and attachment theory can be integrated easily into all the different play therapy models. So to me, if that's foundationally, if you look at what their nervous system is doing, what is it saying about their attachment capacity and how is that influencing their life, then you kind of get a good sense of you can use that. I mean, you can use that in all of your play therapy models. And here's another thing to think about. So let's say you're not sure. What do you do when you're not sure? Because that's going to happen. Even now, I've been doing this decades. I sometimes do not know what is going on in the moment. And at that point, it doesn't matter because what matters is that I'm fully attuned, tapped in, present, congruent, holding space for unconditional positive regard and empathy. That, by its very nature, is healing, and you are not going to get anywhere unless you have that foundationally. So, when you're not sure, don't worry, don't rush. Don't feel like you have to pull in an activity to make sure it's working. When you notice your kind of anxiety is going a little bit like, oh, I don't know what they're doing, it's okay in that session. Just be fully present, stay curious about what's going on. Do some tracking and reflecting. Reflect back in non leading ways what's going on. Your client will show you what they need. That's one of the things that I love about child centered play therapy. As an adult, as a play therapist, you have got to learn how to let go of control, which is so hard for grown-ups. I would say foundationally, I love child-centered play therapy for that very reason. I use more of an integrated approach overall. For young kids, I'm strictly child-centered play therapy. One of the things child-centered play therapy is brilliant about is letting go of control, trusting your client, and that unconditional positive regard, using that therapeutic use of self for the healing process. So when you're not sure, lean into that. When you're not sure, just make reflections, non-leading. So if it's a question, it's leading. Just reflect. Oh, you're drawing that flower. Oh, you're um oh, that guy's really angry. Or, oh, you want to make sure that I pay for my food. Or you want to make sure that I get to order what I like. So you can reflect and then see what they do with that. And then you're also going to track the process. Like you're after the session, you can think back. I usually do this when I'm doing my progress notes, like as I'm identifying themes and I'm kind of thinking about their treatment plan and where are they in the process. I'll kind of think about, oh, where are they? What changes have they made? So after the session, you can reflect back. In the session, just be fully present in the moment, make non-leading statements, and be curious. Just settle in to the therapeutic relationship and holding space and co-regulating. And yes, you can set limits when you need to set limits. Be patient. Sometimes safety needs to come before they can get to that symbolic work of play therapy. So, why does all this matter? Um, Really, it's validating that it's okay not to know sometimes. Um, you don't always have to know everything all the time. Even in adult talk therapy, we don't know. We sometimes don't know. And sometimes we have to lean in and trust the process. It looks a little different in play therapy because we're using play and we're showing up differently. It's still the same underlying principle that sometimes we have to trust the process. And what that means is we trust that if we have a secure therapeutic relationship, that and we lean into our theoretical model, that will help clients access the therapeutic powers of play for healing, and they will go through the stages of change. So in those moments where you're not sure, lean into stillness is okay, you're co-regulating, and sometimes you are holding space for safety when you feel like your clients might be avoiding or struggling a little bit. It's okay. You can trust the process to get there. So that is it for today. And if you are interested, I feel like the best way to do this, though, it is really hard to do this work on your own. And one of the things that I have loved, and if you ask any Play Therapy Academy member when I'm not around, um, they will tell you all the same thing because it's the same thing that I love about Play Therapy Academy. And that is the power of the group, the power of the wisdom and the energy and the support of different eyes with different insights, different giftings, different theoretical lens. How, as a group, we can hone in and support each other and figure out what is going on so that you have a well-grounded um, foundation of support to guide you through what's happening in play therapy. And for that reason, I am getting ready to open up registration again for my brand new online play therapy membership called Play Therapy Elevation Circle. So right now, I have a wait list. So if you're interested, then you can sign up for the wait list. You'll be the first one to be notified, so you get more information about what it is. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a couple minutes. I want to do a recap, though. So just as a recap, how do you tell if clients are just playing in play therapy? So children access the therapeutic powers of play. That in and of itself, that theoretical model to access the therapeutic powers of play within a strong therapeutic relationship creates that corrective experience. One of the therapeutic powers of play is positive emotion, accessing positive emotion. Children need to feel safe. To do that, they need to engage in play and experience positive emotion to be able to use play therapy to establish and understand how this play therapy relationship works. The other thing that you're going to be looking at is there's activity, there's what are they doing in the play therapy, like how are they playing, what are they doing with the toys, versus process. And so process is the underlying psychological and emotional process that they're going through, the deeper part that you don't see underneath of what is going on for that client. And so basically what we know is that play therapists are going to listen deeply to what is being communicated through the play. You're going to tap into your resonance circuits. You're going to look at what they're saying and what they're doing. You're going to look for subtle changes over time. Maybe they're progressing, but maybe they regress. Maybe as they're in the process of moving to a the next stage of play therapy, they might regress a little bit and go back and forth for a little while. It's not going to be a straight linear process. It's back and forth and all around sometimes, and eventually they will make it through each stage. So you're looking at the subtleties of what is going on. Notice all of the details of what is going on. Notice that from session to session to session. How are they interacting with you? How are they interacting with the toys? What are they saying? What are they not saying? What's getting used? What's not getting used? All the things. You're looking at the tone, the energy, the language, the themes, and tapping into your gut instincts or resonance circuits, right? What do you do when you're not sure? Settle in and trust the process. Be patient. Know that when you're holding that therapeutic space, your clients will tell you what they need. But the underlying question of that is also, how do I know when they're ready to end play therapy? Well, you're going to know when they need to end play therapy by your play therapy model and what stage of play therapy are they in. So that's where you really need to make sure that you're using a play therapy model, because that's going to help you decode what's going on when they're ready for termination, and how to know all those things. So that kind of wraps it up for today. If you're interested in play therapy elevation circle, if you have ever thought to yourself, I wish I had another play therapist to do this work, to ask these questions, to figure out what's going on with my little client, then I have good news. So Play Therapy Elevation Circle is my new membership that is online. We meet monthly for a consultation group, discussing difficult cases, figuring out what's going on in sessions, getting ideas. Whether you're new or seasoned in play therapy, none of us can really do this work alone. I feel like we need a community of support. And for play therapists, that community of support, I think, includes like-minded play therapists, and having that space to get that support and figure things out can make a difference in the outcomes you get for your clients, making a difference in helping them to heal. The other thing that we're doing in Play Therapy Elevation Circle is going to be a book club. I'm super excited about a book club. So we're going to take a play therapy book, and we're going to have a monthly book club meeting talking about the book, and then also how do you apply it in play therapy. There's a community group in there to get support in between. There's some other benefits in there as well. If you're interested in learning more about Play Therapy Elevation Circle, then you definitely want to sign up for the wait list. So we'll post some links to the wait list in the comments, but also you can hop over to my website at rhplaytherapytraining.com. You'll see on the website, on the homepage in the upper right corner, there's a join the wait list. Click on that link, sign up for the wait list. You'll get some emails with different strategies, some tips and things like that. But also you'll get notified when Elevation Circle registration is open. It's only going to be open for a short period of time in August, and then we're going to close it up. So if you want to learn more about Play Therapy Elevation Circle, if you have been looking for a place where you don't have to figure it out by yourself, where you can get help figuring out what is going on in your session, you can get help with maybe dealing with some challenging parents that you're not sure what to do, and you're trying to figure out how to engage them as your partner. Or maybe you just need ideas and you're running a little stale, or you need to know how to apply your play therapy model and you need a little help. So if you're interested, pop over to my website at rhplaytherapytraining.com. Click on the link to sign up for the wait list, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.